After a well-deserved break of over a year, we're back at, checks notes, the Jewel in the Crown. Let's get started.
And they are going to win! Pierre Gasly wins the Italian Grand Prix! 3 cars going wheel to wheel as Perez is caught by Charles Leclerc and there's 3 cars gone off! It's a DNF for MAX! The World Championship record is equalled. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champion of the world!
Okay, I'm not going to lie, I thought you forgot what Monaco was called. You're like, where are we? I've forgotten.
I didn't think you'd forgotten what it was called, but I thought you'd forgotten what you were going to say, as in the Jewel in the Crown.
Blimey.
I like it.
There's an acting career left for me.
Yeah, if this doesn't work out for you.
And there's always the stages that are definitely open, or will be anyway. So let's get started. There wasn't a Monaco Grand Prix of 2020 owing to the pandemic. Boo-hoo for me. I was roaring my eyes out with that one. But you have to go all the way back to 2019 to have even the slightest inclination as to what will happen this time round. So let's remind ourselves of qualifying. Hamilton was in first, pole position, Bottas second, Max third, Vettel fourth, and Pierre Gasly back in the days where he was racing for Red Bull. So that's, real ancient times back then. And then the race finished Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Max, and Gasly again. So if we can learn anything from 2019, if there's any certainty, it's that qualifying very much is king, don't you think?
Is Monaco actually a jewel in the crown, though? Because I feel like we had this debate last time. I still fall into the camp of we're not necessarily missing much. In fact, I've been looking at people's traditions, Monaco, because it seems like this is something people do with Monaco. They do something special. Whilst the rich and famous get into their super yachts and circumnavigate a quarter of the globe to go to a fancy swimming pool for a weekend, people at home tend to do interesting things as well. I read one which was opening champagne and having a barbecue with your mates, or just getting drunk just in case the race is a bit tedious and a bit of a procession. Both of which sound great, although the super yacht thing also sounds great as well. If anyone's interested, my DMs are open, willing to come on a super yacht, going to Monaco. So qualifying always matters the most for Monaco. Often it is a procession, and no one can get past. Not without taking off a bit of their body in the process. It takes a very talented driver to get past cleanly and quickly in Monaco. A great example of that is when Daniel Ricciardo's electrical power went on his Red Bull, meaning it was like 80 horsepower down, and kept Vettel from overtaking him, and he still won the race, which is bizarre and also daft. So all eyes are going to be on Saturday. I certainly hope that we have a real fight in Q3 for that podium place. I'm hoping that we're going to have sort of Verstappen looking like he's going to take pole, then suddenly Hamilton out of nowhere will get the fastest lap, and then they're going to be like, right, they've got one more chance, and then it's going to be Bottas. It's going to be Bottas. And Bottas will be like, to whom it concerns, or whatever. And then, because it's Monaco, he'll win. Because no one get past him, no matter how badly you mess up, which I suppose is great for Mr. Saturday, George Russell, which I think I'm looking at him actually this weekend the most, because he is Mr. Saturday. If he can get around this pretty darn fast and get into, let's say, I'm going to be optimistic and say 12th position.
He could do that. He could get into 12th.
He could get into. No, he actually could get into 12th.
He really could. He's been 11th.
I know.
This year.
I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say he can do 12th, and then he might actually be able to stay in 12th. Or if something goes wrong in the race, get up those 2 positions. I think it's possible to gain 2 positions, and then because it's Monaco, no one will be able to get past him. Boom, got some points. Yes, Russell. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be as interesting at the front necessarily, unless it's really close between Verstappen and Hamilton. But I'm kind of hoping that those who haven't got points yet and do really well in qualifying, this is their moment to get some points.
Yeah, I just going back to the start, the fact it's Monaco this weekend, and obviously we've had this argument so many times, and I like to argue to keep it on the calendar or whatever, because I just think it's a classic. But yeah, it is obviously all about qualifying, as you've said, you've both mentioned, and it puts an interesting amount of pressure, I think, on the drivers, especially the lead drivers, because obviously getting pole is absolutely huge normally, but if you do mess up in Q3, like if you're Lewis, you could start 8th and still win. So it's at a normal track or somewhere like Barcelona where we were the other week, whereas it puts a lot more pressure on those quali laps, and I just think that's so much more exciting. And like, what if they're on their quali lap and then, you know, someone has a spin or has an incident and there's suddenly a yellow flag, that's their lap gone, you know, that's it, they're not on point. So I just think it's going to be extra, like qualifying is going to mean so much more. And I think as well that it could be, if you're looking at which team it could benefit the most, I feel like it is of more benefit to Red Bull in the sense that if, like, I don't know how to describe it, except that if they could put Max on pole with a really quick lap, as you've said, like, that's almost like a win. And obviously that would be the same for Mercedes, but in any other race, Max on pole it usually results in Lewis getting past. But on this occasion, this would be his chance to keep it. So I think for him, it means even more. It would mean even more for the team. It would mean even more, because qualifying on pole for them in the past hasn't led to a win. He qualified on pole in Bahrain and Hamilton won. So this is an opportunity for them to again use that quick pace that they do have in quali, but then it actually to stick and to potentially do quite well. I would like to say though, but obviously it is known that overtaking is very, very difficult. But I mentioned this briefly at the end of last week's podcast, the fact that Formula E was there just a couple of weeks ago, and it was genuinely ridiculously exciting. Really, really, really good overtakes, and a lot. So it is possible, and Formula E race on a tight circuit. Like whether it was they did have one change, I believe, to the track, but you know, in general, Formula E cars, for those that have seen, the tracks they are racing on are walled and they are tight, and so they you know have to get good at overtaking in these tight spaces, and you know that paid off at Monaco because it was honestly one of the most exciting races of the season, and the top two were still like swapping positions back and forth in the final lap, and the Mahindra racing driver Alex Lynn dropped back a couple of places towards the end, and to about 10th or 11th, and then in the final couple of laps made his way back up to 8th. So it shows like the action isn't over until the last second, and it'd be interesting to see how this race compares, because I've seen a lot of people you know, on social media talking about how great that Formula E race was, and like no pressure F1, but like if you're going to be a possession then that's going to be a bit rubbish. So it's certainly possible, and I mean, if anyone can do it, it's like those top cars, those Mercedes, and so but I would say I'm more excited for this one than I have been for a lot of previous Monaco Grand Prix, because I think partly the Formula E has made me like realise how good it can be, but also because I think obviously we've still got this such tight battle between the Red Bull and the Mercedes. Obviously it's less tight than it was because it's about getting on that top step, and that hasn't been the case with Max, but in power wise and pace wise it is, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I think as well, sort of having a break from Monaco is definitely something that for me, who's, you know, not so keen on the circuit, makes me think, oh, Monaco's back. That's sort of a nice variety to add back into the calendar. But I wasn't aware until very recently that Max has not only, well, he had a curse at Imola in terms of finishing on the podium and indeed winning the race, but he also seems to have somewhat of a curse at Monaco. So looking at his record, he's raced there 5 times. His DNF twice, his best qualifying position was 3rd, and he's never actually finished on the podium at all. So his best race result was a 4th place. So that makes it such a high stakes race for not only himself but also sort of Red Bull. As you said, Liv, the Red Bull car is, you know, probably the best car to be in versus the Mercedes, because it's got such an advantage on the sort of low-speed downforce that it possesses in comparison. But yeah, Max really needs to go and show his quality, because if he doesn't win this race and Lewis does, and, you know, he has an incident in qualifying or the race and doesn't even finish 2nd, 3rd, or, you know, even the race, then Red Bull could be in some serious trouble, not only for the constructors but also for Max Verstappen's hopes of challenging Lewis further on into the season. So it's a big race for him, but also I'd say for Perez as well, who also needs to go and prove his worth at Red Bull, particularly considering that you've got other cars here and other drivers that are with a great deal of momentum under their belt that could easily sort of score higher than they perhaps ordinarily would at a circuit where overtaking is easier, shall we say.
Yeah, and Monaco is interesting, as you just alluded to there, because of its slowness. It does have the slowest, tightest corner in the entirety of the F1 calendar. The hairpin is incredible, and if you didn't know, that the engineers have to set the steering wheel up differently for Monaco so that they can engage more steering lock than they otherwise would on a circuit, so that they can get round that corner, which is interesting in itself. And yeah, that this means that top speed doesn't matter. There's no point being 3 kilometers an hour faster than your teammate if you can't get there. So this is a great opportunity, I think, for other teams like McLaren, maybe, which has a nice smooth car. I'm hoping Gasly as well can pull out a bit of magic. I have faith in him, and also I think Perez as well. This is going to be his moment to really demonstrate that he's got qualifying under his belt and he can handle that Red Bull car when it matters, because Perez's redeeming quality at the moment is he might not do very well in qualifying, but then in the race he can catch back up. So that's not really going to be an option in this, unless Red Bull pull out some magic undercut or overcut strategy. But even then, it's really difficult on Monaco. Who's going to blink first with the changing of the tyres is going to be a very interesting part of the race on Sunday, and we do not want to be seeing a repetition of when Red Bull messed up Daniel Ricciardo's tyre change and lost him out on the whim.
Yeah.
So that was. So we'll be eyes on really the pit crew, and I feel sorry for the pit crew because it is a lot of pressure when you're changing the tyres in a normal race. In Monaco, if you mess this up, well, you're like, well, there you go.
I was just the other day, I was watching, like a couple of days ago, I was watching the Monaco, like I was just scrolling on Sky Sports, and it had the Monaco race in 2011, I think, and within that it was up to the Red Bull crew, which obviously are usually pretty top notch. Maybe they weren't the case in 2011, but to do a double stack and in Monaco, and the first one went badly wrong. I don't know if they were ready in time, but they were like waving me like to put really slow, and then obviously the second car was then waiting, and it was a really poor pit stop for both, and that ruined the race for them, both cars. So like that's just an example of something that could happen, and I was going to mention it and then I completely forgot, but when I spoke about like qualifying is also important stuff, but as you've just said, Tristan, the pit stops are going to be equally as important, because that could completely change a race, and as you say, once you're in that new position, it's very hard to get back up again. Yeah. So it's all down to the team, which is like so much pressure, but that's their job. So
and safety cars as well. I throw another weird spanner into the works, and going from this season so far, we're having quite a lot of accidents. Not to point fingers at any drivers in particular, but spinning out here is particularly bad because there isn't a runoff area, especially if you spin off and crash out in somewhere
into a swimming pool.
Like swimming pool, exactly. That can cause a couple of issues. So let's hope that a safety car, if it comes out, I'm willing to bet there will be a safety car actually.
I agree.
So I think there will be a safety car, but I really don't want the safety car to artificially alter the race. It will be such comedically bad timing if, let's say, driver like Verstappen's in the lead, he just comes out from his pit stop and then, or just about to go in, and there's a safety car, and then you get 3 stops and whatever, and disaster. It will artificially ruin the race, really. So yeah, but this goes back. These problems we're identifying of once you're back, you can't get forward again. How pit stops matter so much. How there's no place to overtake. How you can be over 80 horsepower down and still win the race. I like to indulge in Monaco rarely. I think that's how it should be. And I'd like, instead of having it every year, them to be like, well, we'll have Mugello this year, Monaco the year after that, and the year after that will be going to Germany for the Nürburgring. These are all classic, exciting tracks with a strong history and ties to Formula One, and they all have the capacity to be boring or interesting. And so, therefore, let's not always have the procession every year. And is it the jewel in the crown of Formula One? I don't think so. I think there are better tracks.
The thing is on that, which was the same argument we had before, is that what Monaco does for the brand as a whole is really important, because people watch it, they don't usually watch it, and the money, again, this year isn't the same, but as you mentioned, the parties and the events that happen bring in so much to the brand and to the series. So I think, as you say, it's important to keep it going even if we don't do it every year. But just really quickly, and then I'll lean on to you, Tom, because you haven't spoken for a bit. We were talking about Perez, just like talking back for this year now, and how this is going to be key for him as well as for Max, because they need him badly to get some good points now. It's kind of getting to that point where it's like, what's he going to do now? He needs to show something, perhaps a podium. But obviously he's in that position again with this, like everyone else this year, at this race, where obviously it's a lot harder to move through the pack. So that's what he does well, Sergio Perez. We've seen him do it. He won a race from last, but that there's less opportunity for that. And it's worth noting as well that his past Monaco record is not that great. He came 12th in 2019, 12th in 2018, 13th in 2017. He did have a podium in 2016 though, so that's pretty cool. And then he had a retirement in 2014, and he had a 16th in 2013. And then they're not even I think had a DNF like back in like 2011. So it's not his strongest place. He has got one podium there, but in general, I would say it's more negative than positive. So on that, like, Tom, what do you think Perez can do? Can he do anything?
See, I think Perez is actually going to get on the podium this time, because he's shown he can have a good qualifying session. Like in Imola, for example, no one expected him to get second there, and I get that they're different tracks, but imagine if he could do something like that again, because we know he can, at Monaco. Coupling all the factors that we spoke about, the fact that Monaco is so difficult to overtake at, that it sort of favours those who have done well on Saturday. I can see him getting third. I don't want to say that he could win the race, because I think that's just a bit delusional. You've got to go and accept that there's some sort of latitude. He could easily slip down from second to third, but yeah, I think this is going to be his weekend in terms of proving the critics wrong. And I also think it's going to be a good weekend for the homeboy, Charles Leclerc, who had quite an awful 2019 race, if memory serves me correctly. He got a puncture, I believe, when trying to overtake one of the Renault cars, and then proceeded to sort of carry on at the same sort of speed. That tore up his floor, had to retire the car. Not a great sort of homecoming, if you will. But I think he's going to... fourth. I think fourth for him, because Ferrari's looking really strong. He's looking really strong as well in terms of the Drivers' Championship. I believe he's only a point or so off Lando Norris in fourth. So he's got the momentum going into this race, and he's also got like a point to prove. He doesn't want to repeat the humiliation he got when he returned to his principality. So fourth place for him. But what do you guys think in terms of who's going to actually win? That's what I'm interested to hear. We sort of park the surprises to one side. Who's gonna take the crown at Monaco?
It's going to be Lewis Hamilton. He's going to win the Monaco Grand Prix. In Monaco, it's not just punching it through the track. It's about being smooth. Often the smoothest drives, the one that perhaps feels slower, are actually quick. You drive smooth to be fast, and Hamilton is sort of the king of doing that, of keeping that car calm, collective, taking it near the wall, but just keeping it away. I hark back to the Singapore pole lap in 2018 when he was so fast he beat what Mercedes' computer thought the car could go round the track in. And watching that lap, it is so calm, collected, smooth. Oh, it's just a fantastic drive. If you haven't seen that, you got to take a look, because it's just amazing that he outperformed what computer thought he did, which shows you more about actually the driver than the computer. Hamilton just nailed everything, and he's very good at that. He's very good at keeping calm and cool under pressure, and just doing what he needs to do. So yeah, I think it's going to be Lewis Hamilton. I think part of the reason why Max Verstappen has a curse at Monaco is the way he drives is very, well, I don't want to say angry, but it's very impassioned, and he definitely does things with the car, flicks it out, you can see it, he fights with it to get ekes every single last edge of performance. But on normal tracks where there's forgiveness, that's okay. But one mistake and a high curb here or a sausage curb there, and before you know it, you've accidentally slammed into the side of a swimming pool, and you know that the next race is going to be really difficult. So yeah, I think Hamilton's going to nail it in quali and go on to win the race.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think I was going to be all like cheat and be like either this person, or this person, but that's not what you asked. So I think it will be Hamilton. I think I'm hoping. I was going to say I think, but I hope that Max will then split the Mercedes, because I just want the championship, even if it's just the team's championship. So if they could, if Max can split the Mercedes, then I would say that's a solid result for him. And I'd also, while you predicted Charles Leclerc, I'd quite like to see a McLaren in the top 5. And as you say, yeah, the Ferrari is quite fast, so I'd maybe put the Ferrari in 4th or 5th, with the McLaren in there as well. But we'll see. It depends how much their special livery can help them speed along. What's everyone's thoughts on that, by the way?
That livery, oh my goodness, that is amazing. I do like it. I have a soft spot for the Ford GT, also in that colour. It's just so wonderful. I was really excited about that. I showed it to my girlfriend, and she was like, "It's just silver." I was like, "It's not silver. It's light blue and orange." So I thought it was fantastic. As a racing nerd, I think it looks amazing. In fact, I didn't even register that it's the same livery pattern as their current livery, but it just looks so much nicer when orange is the highlight colour. I think it pops it a bit more. I love the black sort of black edges as well. It kind of reminds it does something. It looks a bit cartoony. It looks fantastic. And my favourite thing of all about it is on the front and on the back there is a white circle with a number, let's say 4 in it for Norris, and it's so easy to see. When will the FIA mandate that numbers are in a big white circle and blatantly obvious? Stop putting black numbers on a black car. No one can see it. It drives me nuts when you're like, who's that going off? Well, I don't know. It's definitely a Haas, but we can't tell which one. Oh, look, it's Mazepin.
We don't know whether to cry or laugh.
Just make it obvious which car it is going off, or whatever, by clear, easy to see numbers. God, Christ, it winds me up no end. And I know people go, well, I don't know the numbers anyway. Well, it doesn't matter. Some of us do.
Some people do.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan actually of this livery that McLaren have gone for in Monaco, but it does kind of annoy me that you've got this one sort of one-off livery for Monaco, which is great, which is nice. It's harking back to the relationship that McLaren did have with, I believe it was Gulf Oil, and will have soon. I believe they've rekindled that relationship, and it looks very nice, and as you say, very retro with the sort of white circle and the numbers in the middle. But it annoys me because it makes me think how much time and effort has been put into that one design, that one livery, and all the sort of resources that have been pulled away from redesigning a livery for the entire season. Because let's not kid ourselves, McLaren literally have the same livery this season as they did last season. And it confused me as to why that was, why they just decided not to basically try to make any difference for the new season. And it's because they've been putting all these resources into doing a one-off livery, which, you know, if they'd done it permanently, it'd be like, great, you know, you've gone for something really retro, you've gone for something brand new. No one saw this coming along, but here we are. It's just going to be at Monaco, just for the jewel in the crown, etc., you know, to go and show off to all those that tune in for this one race. Brilliant. But it's like when Red Bull do those sort of matted limited edition liveries, they sort of trial in, let's say, practice 2 or testing in Spain. Everyone goes, could they change it this time? Could it be different? No, it's just for this one session or one day or one race weekend, then it's back to normality or back to the 2020 livery. So a huge fan, but more, not less.
On that though, it's worth pointing out that there is a lot of negotiations when it comes to sponsorship in Formula One, and the amount of space you get on a car is proportional to the amount of money you give. McLaren's brand deals are always lots of smaller ones rather than a big one. Like for example, Williams Martini Racing back then, right? Their primary sponsor was Martini, and so they had that. McLaren would need an almighty amount of sponsorship cash from Gulf if they wanted to have the Gulf livery on their car, and that's just not the way it works. So
yeah, but just to make it different is my point.
It is. It's definitely interesting to make it different, and I actually would really encourage a thing about Monaco, if you would like, Liv, to spice Monaco up a bit more, of teams being like, well, we're gonna, for this year's Monaco, we're pulling out our Ferrari being like, we're pulling out our 1960s blue livery. Yeah. That one time they went blue. So yeah, I agree. I want more of this, but also I understand exactly why they've only done it for one race, because they can't keep it up for the rest of the season just because the sponsorships would be all wrong. What I'm hoping for is next year with a full rule refresh, lots of teams take a look at their liveries and try and make them a little bit more interesting and distinguish them from each other a little bit more. And McLaren can definitely steal some ideas from this Golf livery to make it look brilliant.
Yeah,
agreed.
I feel like I disagree with Tom a little bit, just because personally I just think that this was an absolute stroke of genius by the McLaren PR team, like genuinely, because it started off like, it's the simple things really that they did, where they invited the journalists, the F1 journalists, to the factory to reveal this and to announce it about a week or so ago.
Where was our invite?
I know.
Hold on.
I know.
F1 journalists? I don't think I got an invite. McLaren. So I'm sorry. Not everyone who was anyone was there.
Exactly, rude. But they invited F1 journalists to this event. And then, obviously, I don't know whether they said stuff to journalists or they gave them permission or they encouraged them to. But a number of journalists then tweeted out or posted, I've just been at McLaren for a really interesting press release, like press launch. Can't tell you what it is yet, but like really exciting. And so of course the world went mad. People go, oh my god, they're joining, like including me, like they're joining Formula E, because they have actually signed up, like a completely different discussion this, but they have signed up as a potential group to join Formula E from 2022. But also people were saying they're joining World Endurance Championship, which would be so good. But people absolutely started speculating, and that, I thought that was a genius, because they were suddenly in the press. Do you know what I mean? They were being spoken about, and then
I read loads of people being expecting Hamilton to be moving back to McLaren, and I was just like, what?
I didn't think that. But yeah, and so that was genius. And then of course the whole, I think, the appeal of a one-off livery is the fact that it's one-off, and it wouldn't be as exciting if they were changing this to their livery forever. The fact is it's 5 races in or so. So the first excitement of their first launch, yes, as we've said, it wasn't a fantastic livery reveal in the sense that not much had changed. But they're making themselves relevant again, rather than when they were first relevant, which is when every team was relevant because everyone was doing their car launches at the same time. They've now done something that none of the other teams have done, and people, I know for a fact that probably the teams were all thinking, oh my god, like what are we going to do for Monaco, like what are we going to do on social, what are we going to do on PR, like are we going to do a different, design of car? Either change our helmets? Are we gonna? Because like obviously for the Williams' anniversary, I think it's their 750th race or something like that at the weekend. They're putting people's names on the car or something, some fans' names. So it's all about having a campaign for something like Monaco because, as you say, it is the jewel and the crown, and it's so important. And I obviously have agreed with that. They were probably desperately coming up with ideas, but McLaren has without doubt achieved the best one. They're the one that people are talking about. So you've got to give them a round of applause, really. And yeah, it's a shame it's going to go back to normal, but it wouldn't really be sort of a big press stunt if it wasn't a one-off, if that makes sense. But yeah, good for them.
Did you see the launch video that went with it though?
It was so cool.
That was
I
really
did not
cool.
know.
Go take a look. The only thing was it was only Norris, so I was like, oh wow, Ricciardo wasn't invited to this party. He's he wasn't allowed.
And the photography that went along with it as well. Like, It felt like they were shooting Lando for Time magazine or something. Like, honestly, it was so good. Like, everything, they thought about every aspect of it. And, like, I agree, Tom, it kind of is like, whoa, what a lot of resources. But in my opinion, every little thing you can do to stand out,
Yeah.
I think they've done a fantastic job. And, yeah, the pictures are amazing. The video is so cool. Like, and I think McLaren have done a really good job, this is just more widely speaking now, of being, like, cool. It like as a, do you know? I don't know. They're just a cool. They were in danger a few years ago of not being a cool team, of being an old team and being one that stuck with their old. Where were back in the day when they used to be really successful, so they're clinging on to it, whatever, and then they went a bit orange, and then, but they're cool now. They have music video kind of vibe-esque things, and they're doing stuff that no other team is doing. So, good. Congrats to them. I'm impressed.
I never thought I'd be saying this, but gimmicks are dangerous. Like, I get it. Like, it's a great idea, and if it all goes well for McLaren in this race weekend, they get on the podium, get 4th, 5th, whatever, both score points, etc., then brilliant. But like, whenever I think back to these gimmick type things, I think back to Germany 2019 when Mercedes were too busy sort of dubbing the Lederhosen gear and, celebrating the anniversary of the team and all this sort of stuff. And what happened? Well, Bottas crashed out, Hamilton finished 9th, and Max Verstappen won the race. So, yeah, I mean, I hope it goes well. There's no reason why it shouldn't, but in my view, it kind of makes you think, all the attention may be on the wrong things. Come this race weekend, be it from neutrals or I don't know, some of the team complacency. It's dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, but you have got a sample rate of 1. You can't draw anything from that just because it went wrong.
Well, no. But I am saying whenever I think of these type of things, I'm drawn to Germany 2019, which makes you think something like that could happen again. I hope it doesn't, but it's
absolutely. But again, this is amazing. As Liv says, this is amazing brand recognition, and McLaren definitely is a cool brand now. That's why people like me are big fans of McLaren, because we're quite cool, and so I have to have a team that's equally cool too. So McLaren has done a great job of highlighting their heritage with Bruce McLaren and and pushing themselves towards 21st century, and that's why I think also Norris and Ricciardo work really nicely in the team, because they are quite cool drivers. Ricciardo is a very popular driver from a fan's perspective and a paddock perspective. He's just a great guy, and Norris is funny as well. McLaren has really fostered a community of sort of friendship and family in their team, rather than being ruthless and cutthroat like Red Bull and angry and desperate like Haas. So so they've done a great job, and this will be really important for their longevity. Gimmicks, you're right, gimmicks are definitely a dangerous precedent to set, because it can sometimes hype you up for something you're not. But I don't necessarily think this is a gimmick. I think they are realising that they're going back to Monaco, and they've got a good heritage there, and it's time to crack out something a little bit different and spice things up in the middle of or in the quarter of a way through a season or whatnot. Because lots of companies do this. They need to do a refresh of something. This is why Apple, for example, released a purple iPhone, because they know they will get into the news and someone will talk about it. And so this is what McLaren have done. And hey, what's happening now? We've dedicated the last 10 minutes to talking about some colours on a car. So it's fantastic. It's brilliant. And then I'm going to be thoroughly enjoying them going around the track. I just want McLaren to look at their livery in the future. They please stay orange though, like keep their dot on the track as orange, because I'll be so angry if we have another blue.
And to be fair as well, they've got Daniel Ricciardo, who I believe his most successful track is Monaco. I believe he scored 85 points, I believe, at that track. So this is a big favourite for him. So yeah, I mean, he's the driver you want in many ways if you're, aside from Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen. But yeah, so I could well be proved wrong on my fears dispelled when you couple a sort of McLaren team with momentum, eyes on them, and Daniel Ricciardo, and could do very well. Maybe a podium, you never know. And so ends episode 8 of F1 in Review. Listeners to this will already know what happened in practice 1 and practice 2, but we're yet to see what will happen in practice 3, qualifying, and indeed the race. We're yet to see, of course, what will happen in terms of who will win, who will surprise, and who will disappoint. But we'll be back in due course next week to discuss what happened, what didn't happen, and what all this means for the calendar and for the Constructors and Drivers' Championship moving forwards this season. Until next time, thank you very much for listening.